Hey, Andy,
Hey, Dad.
we're back.
We're back.
We're back
This is
for our episode 2
this
of
is 2 weeks in a
Timeless.
row. This is pretty
Yeah.
good.
And this is about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
hmm
I'm going to let you go through the recap and then we'll talk about it. So, what happened in this episode?
Episode 2 of Timeless is titled The Assassination of Abraham Lincoln. It's April 14th, 1865, and the episode begins with John Wilkes Booth shooting Abraham Lincoln at Ford's Theater. You'll remember at the end of the last episode, Lucy had returned home to find things changed, and Agent Christopher called her back to Mason Industries. As she heads out the door, her mother reminds her not to forget about tomorrow night. At Mason Industries, Lucy asks if anything has changed for Wyatt or Rufus, and she tells them that her sister doesn't exist anymore. Agent Christopher tells Lucy that the dossier they have on her doesn't say anything about a sister. Lucy shows them a locket with a picture of Amy and herself and says they have to change things back. Christopher says they don't have time for the discussion. Flynn is hours ahead of them. As Jaya helps Lucy get changed into a corset, she says she can help by looking into the events of the Hindenburg and how it might have resulted in the loss of Amy. Rufus and Connor Mason look at surveillance footage of Flynn stealing the time machine and taking the project leader, who is named Anthony. Mason said Anthony is one of the 2 best time machine pilots. Then Mason gives Rufus the recording device, and we get a mention of the mysterious Rittenhouse. Wyatt, Rufus, and Lucy take off in the time machine. When they land, they get out and see fireworks. Lucy says the Civil War just ended. She says Booth will be at Ford's Theater at 10 a.m. to pick up his mail. They split up with Lucy and Wyatt going into the theater, while Rufus keeps watch for Flynn. Rufus encounters a group of black soldiers. One of them asks Rufus his name. He says he's Denzel Washington. In the mailroom, Lucy is interrupted by Robert Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's son. Then Booth enters. When Booth leaves the theater, our trio follows him into an alley. He goes into a house to meet with his fellow conspirators. Garcia Flynn looks out a window. He spots Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus and begins shooting at them. Wyatt returns fire and the 3 run out of the alley. But in the exchange, Wyatt has been hit. Lucy and Wyatt go to a hotel room. Rufus has been sent to get medical supplies. Wyatt has been shot in the side. When Rufus returns, Wyatt says it's up to Rufus to take out the bullet. Lucy also explains that Booth's plan was to kill not just Lincoln, but General Grant, Vice President Johnson, and Secretary of State Seward. When Lucy goes to the train station to intercept General Grant, Flynn shows up and says he's trying to save America, not destroy it. That night at the theater, Lucy is sitting in the balcony booth with Robert Lincoln. President Lincoln and his wife arrive, and Lucy is noticeably awestruck. Back at the hotel, Rufus is tasked with saving the vice president, and Wyatt is supposed to save the Secretary of State. At the theater, Lucy coughs and gets a glass of water. She dumps it on General Grant, accidentally on purpose. Grant leaves the booth. Wyatt goes to the home of Secretary Seward and finds one of the conspirators outside. They fight, and Wyatt ends up shooting him. Meanwhile, Rufus is in the hotel where Vice President Johnson is staying when one of the conspirators enters. The vice president walks into the hotel lobby. The conspirator gets up and takes aim at him. Rufus takes down the conspirator. At the theater, the door opens and Flynn enters. He knocks Robert Lincoln aside and shoots President Lincoln. Flynn leaps from the balcony down to the stage. Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus return to the time machine. At Mason Industries, they learn about changes to Lincoln's assassination. Now, Lincoln was shot by an unknown gunman. Jaya takes Lucy aside and tells her what she found out about how the Hindenburg changed things. Lucy returns home to discover that the event mentioned at the beginning of the episode is her engagement party. She tells her mother that she wants to talk about her father. Mom gets visibly upset and walks away. Then a man comes up behind Lucy and gives her a big kiss. It's the fiancé. Roll credits.
Okay. Yeah. What did you think of this one, the Abraham Lincoln episode?
So, well, it threw me a little bit seeing that Flynn. Like I was having trouble figuring out what Flynn is up to.
Mm-hmm.
There was that moment when he and Lucy had an exchange, and he tells her, "I'm not trying to, I'm trying to save America. I'm not trying to
Right.
destroy it." And he sounds very sincere. Like I feel like I believe what he's saying.
Yeah,
and that it's not just yeah, I feel like
but he
he's
hasn't.
up to something different, not just trying to destroy America.
Right, but he's
Um,
not he's not giving her the details of how he's trying to do this. He's not like convincing her to help him. All he
right.
says is, "I'm trying to save America, not destroy it." And he's not giving anything more.
I know he had to be like why is he not sort of filling her in or explaining more to try to convince her? That would probably go a long way. But then you've also
Because
got
you remember in
Flynn.
the first episode how he said, "You're going to work with me
Yeah,
in the future?"
yeah.
Well,
You could give her a little more information to like,
mhm,
help her out. Um, I was also it also threw me a little bit to see that he, what was his reasoning for trying to get John Wilkes Booth to use a different gun, and and then Flynn, it wasn't he like he was there to stop the assassination. He ended up doing it himself, shot Lincoln and jumped down on the stage in place of
yeah,
Booth. So it was like he didn't really change anything about the assassination except that he changed who did it.
exactly.
So it's a bit bizarre trying to think what in the world he is up to.
Right. And the one thing, um, that we got some information about was why Amy doesn't exist is because Lucy's mother never met her father because
Oh,
of the
right.
change of the Hindenburg, so they never got married, hence no Amy.
Right, but then that raised a question for her. She was like, "Well, wait, if my parents never met, how do I exist? How was I even born?"
Yeah,
And that's
who's
when
my
she
father?
realized "Oh, my who I thought was my father actually was never my father. So who is my father?"
And that's why she wanted to talk to mom about it, but mom doesn't wanna talk about it.
Right. Which
So,
is sort of interesting because yeah, since that changed with the Hindenburg, I mean, if that would have been her actual parents, like she literally wouldn't have been born, and so then would she have just ceased to exist and never gone in the time machine in the first place, or would she still exist
I
but like sort of came from nowhere?
I've kinda got a crazy idea that, um, Amy wasn't born because mom and dad never met, right?
Mhm.
So, why does Lucy exist? Is Lucy the child of a previous marriage or the child of a little, you know, rendezvous behind the bleachers?
Well, no, that's what I
We
was
don't
thinking
know.
the implication was, is just yeah,
Mhm.
well, I guess we just don't know,
The
but
other
we
thing
know it
we
was
learned
someone
the
else.
other thing we learned is that mom isn't sick now because she never started smoking,
Right,
and nothing changed for Wyatt or Rufus.
right. It is a
But
little
then
I have to say
yeah,
it's a little weird I mean, you could I guess it's probably not worth overthinking, but it's a little weird to think that her mom would have still ended up living in the same house, even though like
mhm,
she hadn't married her
right,
dad, but like
right.
somehow still ended up like buying the same house is a little strange.
Okay. Thing that stood out to me was, when Lucy gets to the back to Mason Industries, Agent Christopher's all upset because Flynn is hours ahead of them. Here we go back to our time travel talk from last week.
It
He
doesn't run in
can't
parallel.
he can't be hours ahead of them, but anyway. Oh, and we find out that supervisor guy, his name is Anthony.
Oh, right, right, right. I did think it was funny that
Uh-huh.
they started using paperweights. There was that joke from
Uh-huh.
before because whenever the time machine leaves, all the papers go blowing, and they're like, "We really need to get some paperweights." And that shot
Yeah,
was pretty funny. It was just
it
like
was
panning
good.
across all the different paperweights on the desks.
There was one line from Rufus that kind of cracked me up, when he's taking the bullet out of Wyatt. He
Yeah,
says this is the worst game of operation.
yeah,
But Wyatt's nose didn't light up. So
No, they should have. He did make the buzzing noise though. So.
yeah. Hey, did you notice when just before they left that the time machine, there was a worker. He had this hose that was connected up to the time machine. What was that? Was that like a fuel hose?
That's a good question. I didn't notice that.
And the computer when they got in said life support is online. What life support is needed? It seems like they get in the time machine.
Yeah, they're there for like
plug
30
in.
seconds.
What do they do? Yeah, they're only gone for a few seconds. What kind of life support do you need?
It's a little weird to think about.
Yeah,
because it's like an instant. That's a bit bizarre.
Now
I did have a question about the play.
Okay.
Okay, when Lincoln's at the play and he gets assassinated, the play that they put on for this episode, like, do we know whether that was the actual play that Lincoln would have been watching, or was this just some random play that they put in the episode?
I'm sure somebody would know.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, just curious.
I had one other thing related to the sister.
Mm-hmm.
If Lucy, she says, we got to get my sister back. Is it possible if they restore Amy that it could result in mom being sick again and possibly dying? Could bringing back Amy kill her mother?
Yeah, so then that becomes like a moral decision later,
Yeah.
Do you have any theories?
Who's this fiance?
Right, and
what's the story there?
Yeah, she's like, hello, like she had never seen him before.
Well, she hadn't ever seen him before.
Right, but yeah.
So, crazy.
Do you have any well, have you seen the whole series before? This is a rewatch.
No.
Do you have any theories on what Flynn is up to or where this is going? I'm trying to think what he could be doing. I don't feel like they've sort of given us enough clues to figure it out, but
I'm still going back to this idea of Rittenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Is that the big bad for the series? Is that maybe what Flynn is trying to eliminate? Is that, is he trying that way? We don't know. He's trying to do something, but we don't know whether it's positive or negative.
What could be? I can't. What would be the motivation to try to get Booth to use a
semi-automatic
handgun?
I don't know.
Like, he obviously didn't need it to successfully do the job because he had done it before.
One thought on that. Remember, Lucy said that the plan was Booth was going to kill Lincoln, General Grant. There were like 4 people they were going to kill. Grant was in the booth with Lincoln, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Flynn thought, if you have this pistol,
you'll actually be able to get all the others.
Right. You can actually shoot both of them and quickly. So maybe that was part of his motivation.
That would make sense.
I don't know. If anybody,
he was trying to help Booth be more successful than he had been originally.
If anybody ever watches us, maybe they could chime in with a comment or something, because we don't know a lot of that.
But I just don't. I don't know what that would have done. Like, what would the implication of that have been, and how, if he really is saving America, what would that do to save America?
Yeah. I'm not a history person, so not to that degree.
In episode 1,
mm-hmm.
Okay, he goes back to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Obviously, he still killed Lincoln, but it seems like he was trying to make Booth more successful and take out these other leaders as well.
Right.
The Hindenburg, he was trying to change events with the Hindenburg so that instead of blowing up where it did, it was going to blow up later and take out some other world leaders that were on it at that point. Is that right?
Yeah. That's what Lucy theorized, that all these important people would be killed on the Hindenburg on its way back to England.
Okay, so
back to Europe.
It does seem like he is on a mission to try to take out more world leaders.
Yeah, but
it seems like kind of convoluted ways to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
He could just track down where people live one at a time, go to their houses, rather than like, well, let's try to make the Abraham Lincoln thing more. So it's weird. It's almost like he's trying to leave history basically intact, but change events enough so that these events still happen, but it takes out more world leaders than they did originally. I'm just not sure why he would be doing that, but
I'm going to figure that eventually we'll find out what's going on.
I hope so. I hope that whenever I start watching a show like this, you're like, okay, writers, I hope you really have a plan and you're not just making it up as you go. So I'm sure that there's some sort of I'm sure that they have a plan and kind of know what they're doing, but that's always,
I hope
kind
so.
You kind of put yourself in their hands and hope they know what they're doing. Because some shows kind of make it up as they go.
Yeah, they do. So overall, what would you give this episode on a scale of 10? Last week, we both said that the first one was a 7. What do you think of this one?
I still feel kind of about the same, maybe 7.5, something like that.
Yeah.
I think just because it's making me a little more, I don't know, the story is just progressing and I'm getting a little more invested in, but I'm not super into the story of the episode itself, but I'm just kind of more intrigued by the overarching story and trying to figure out what is going on.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go down a little bit. I'm going to go with a 6 this time because it didn't grab me as much as the first one did.
Yeah.
There wasn't as much humor in this one. There wasn't as much of, I don't know. It just kind of was a little flatter than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully the next one will be better.
Yeah, what is the next one?
It's called Atomic City.
Atomic City.
Uh-huh.
Something to do with Vegas?
I believe so.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But we'll find out when we come back and do another episode.
Yeah. How many episodes have we got in the first season?
I'd have to look. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can take a quick look, though. Let me go see what we have in the first season.
So Rotten Tomatoes, well, yeah, there's no sort of, they just kind of rate the show overall, right? Like,
I think so.
They don't rate
I think so. Or the whole series overall.
Yeah.
There are, looks like 16 episodes in this first season.
Okay.
So we've got a little time to get things figured out.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, anything else we want to say?
No, other than it'll be fun to watch the next one.
Okay. I'll meet you next time and we'll go to Atomic City.
Sounds good.
That wraps up this episode. Join us again next time here in the TV Lounge.